Alright, so it's day number 2 on this front end, and we are got this kind of, the paint's fresh now. We've been away for a week. We got the pivot all the way up, and the tires are dry rotted where you can see the air in them almost. There's lots of cracks. So we ordered a set of tires, and so these are thinner and they're a bit shorter. So the first thing we're going to do before we decide how far we're going to drop our spindles are is we're going to take these tires off and put these tires on and see how much lower that gets us. So that's our next step. Okay, so right now our axle to the bump stop there is about, I'm gonna call that 8 5/8 off the ground. So come on, Jackman.
Maybe more. Thanks.
Okay, that's good enough. Get your tire. Okay, let it down. So we pretty well dropped a little over 1/4 of an inch just changing tires. All right, so as far as going for the look for us, these tires are going to be skinnier, which I wanted that look for the front of the hot rod, all right? And so I got these tires with rims, inner tubes, and everything ready to go to throw on there, an extra set of sleeves to change sides of the spindle if I need to, for like $52 off Amazon. So not a high budget item. Probably spent more on the rear wheels. We'll talk about those later than what I should have, but somebody likes the pattern.
Whoop, whoop.
So now I need to take these spindles off and create a drop spindle. And so I know we're sitting at about 8 1/4 right now. I'd like to get to about 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do a 3-inch drop spindle, because if I can get 5 inches off the ground, then that'll give me a little bit of ground clearance for a lot of stuff, but it'll give me, because he's going to ride this around out at the farm, so not just on the street, but I think 5 inches will get it low enough that it'll still look cool. So we'll do a 3, maybe a 3.5 inch drop spindle, and then from there we'll decide what we're going to do with the rear end. So I'm going to take the spindles back off the mower and we'll get them on the welding bench. All right, I'm going to share a secret with you guys. I don't always know what I'm doing. So I took a few minutes off camera to brainstorm what I'm doing. And so this right here is the spindle that came off the lawnmower. And I found a piece of channel iron at the bench that I cut in 2, and I drilled 1 hole in it for test purposes. Now I've marked 3 other holes to be cut. And so my game plan is one, this channel's got a little extra ridge on the edges, right? And I'll make a brace piece in the center. And here's the spindle, and that hole is a tight snug fit over my original spindle at the bottom. And so I'm going to run it up when I'm going to press it on there real good when I go to weld it, to where it's right up against the washer on the back side that held the wheel before. So then I will line it up with the top of this spindle to make sure it's centered at the top. And my other hole that I have drilled up here, before I put it on there, I will have this bolt hanging out of it. Okay, and this bolt is the same diameter as the spindle. Now I'll tell you what I'm going to use bolt in a second. Essentially, just so happened with this piece of metal, when I cut it in equal halves, I'm going to end up with about 3.5 inches of drop doing it this way, which will be about perfect what I wanted. And then I'll also come in here between this area and build a support piece and weld it in so this doesn't want to bend up. Now, by doing it this way, I maintain the proper camber and the proper alignment by centering everything up that the mower was originally designed with. Sure, I can measure my camber and everything and redo all that, but why reinvent the wheel, right? So, now we'll talk about why I'm using the bolt. This is the original spindle. It had a bolt with washers that went on it and it held the wheel in place, okay? I don't like that, especially if we're going to make this any faster than it already is, which will bump up the speed a little bit, but not much. I like this. Yes, this is a nut. And a regular nut would go on there, and if the wheel was spinning, it could potentially spin the wheel off or tighten the wheel down depending on how the wheel's spinning against it. However, with the appropriate washer, which I have some, and castle nuts, which I have some, we will thread a castle nut on there, and once we're sure where the wheel is going to go on there, I will take the castle nut and pin a place in the threads and drill down through the bolt and put a keeper pin in there, which is how a lot of the spindles on your vehicles are made. For example, the old white Chevy we got, the front spindles are made that way. A lot of trailer spindles, you have a keeper that you pull out and a castle nut that you back off, and that's what holds the wheel. And that way you can tighten it until it's tight, and then usually back it off like a half a turn to allow it to spin freely and put your keeper through it. So I am going to go drill some holes in plate, and then I'm going to show you how it all fits together. Alright, so I've started off, I got my piece in the vise, I've got holes drilled in all of them, and I'm putting the nut on, or the head of the bolt on the inside. So when I do that, right there it is, and I've actually turned them to where they're flush on top. Not that that really matters, but that's the way I want to do it. And so I had a piece of scrap pipe sitting here that had some where they'd been cut with a torch. I cut about that much of it off, and I get a couple threads on my nut, and I have now got this piece of pipe tightened on here, pressing this in place so it's flush on the back side. So now I can weld this back side, and it'll be flush with that plate, good and straight off of it. Won't be any angles. And so then I'll have to weld the front of it, and I'll have to put me a spacer piece on it, just like the front spindles got, or the original spindles got. So I'll weld this up, get this made, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I've got the bolt welded into the bracket here and pressed in, and I've got a washer welded on the front of it as a flat space for the wheel to set back against. Now, down here I've got a couple washers, a piece of pipe, and I've got the bolt that holds it in. And this is really hot because I've just welded this. But I've got it bolted, pressed in using this nut against the face that the wheel used to rest on. Now, I've also stepped off to the side, and I've got this lined up to where it is straight up and down with this spindle here. So it keeps my alignment right from what the bottom one would be. And so I'll get you a little closer look here. So you can see back there the original flange that the wheel used to set on, right back in there. And I've got it pressed against it using this piece of pipe and pulling this on as if it was the wheel. Okay, and if you stand back here, you can see the top of the spindle is lined up with the center of the bolt. And so come back this way, and you can see straight up and down the top of the spindle where it goes into the axle lined up with the channel evenly and the bolt in the center. So now the thing I need to do is weld in here and weld this to it. Then I'm going to take this off and then cut this off flush and weld it into this right here. And so I'll get those welded. So here is the final setup. And I took a piece of rebar and triangulated it in there in order to give it some strength to keep them from bending. And so they are done. I think this one cambered out a little bit on me. I think it'll be fine. We'll see what happens there. We've got the steering linkages hooked up, even though We don't have it aligned properly yet. We're going to go ahead and set the camera up, put the tires on, and drop the jack and just see how low it gets. Okay, put your tire on. Valve stem in.
Yeah.
Okay, washer. Where's them nuts at you went and got?
Oh, these two?
Yep.
I need one too.
I'll have to buy some castle nuts.
This is hard to fit.
Yeah, well, give me a second.
Wait, give me a little bit easier on them.
I got a wrench.
I got a wrench. Hey, what is that?
1.1
Inch and an eighth? Let me do it all over then. This does. Come on, you got covered.
We'll get a socket later to ratchet it. That'll work better when there's grease in there. Hold up right now. Uh-oh, I see a problem.
What?
Alright, I'm gonna have to make a change on that later, but hey, we're started for now.
Hey, I know what to do maybe. Can I
Alright, hey,
give us a suggestion?
go ahead and lower it.
Yeah.
That is pretty low. However, I just realized we have a problem that I have to fix.
R-U-B.
It's been nice if I had worked out like I wanted it to. However, went to tighten everything up, and the wheels felt weird, like they weren't tightening up, they weren't rolling right. And my plate is interfering with the tire down there. So I am going to have to grind that down and cut that off and make that clearance better. But I'll weld another piece in there and strengthen it ahead of time, and then I've got to cut this little bottom section right here off because I want to make sure it clears that rim. But that will be good. So I'll do that off camera, but hey, we are lowered. Those spindles are pretty well done. Buddy, go ahead and turn the steering wheel. Remember, push it over there where it's straight. There we go. So everything works good.
Also, I got an idea. The kit came with these, so we have a little bit of...
No. All right. Well, I'll straighten him out. Give me just a bit. All right, so I found a solution to our problem. When they sent the wheels, they sent them with 2 different bushings because they don't know what axles you're buying them for, because it's not specific to your lawnmower or whatever. These are the smaller ones. Our axles, the spindles that I built, are the larger ones. So I took 2 of them bushings and I drilled them out. And after I drilled them out, put them on there, and now we have clearance. And I'll show you what we got. So right there, you can see that's the extra bushing I drilled out as a spacer. So I've got about a 1/4 inch of clearance now. I'm still going to, when we take these off and go to paint them, I'll angle this off down here and clean it up because we don't need that much hang down there. And that'll have plenty of clearance now. It'll be good. It'll be just fine. So the drop spindles are complete. The front end will need an alignment. We need to take a good look at the steering bar. But before long, we'll be able to move on to the back of the mower. And that will be a different video. So if you like the hot rod build that we're doing out of the old lawnmower, I know Corbin likes it, then hit that subscribe button and follow along for this one. So
like and subscribe.
we're gonna start on the rear end, and that's a different video. So we'll see you guys later.